I've been teaching improv and comedy for 24 years now. I've never once taught anybody how to be funny. These principles that we teach in Comedysportz, it's the exact same principles that we use in the corporate setting. Do you think you could do improv in front of people and be successful at it right now? Hayden, do you think you could get up in front of people and do it?
What's up, you guys? Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Driven Persuasion podcast, where if you're a highly ambitious person, you're going to learn how to go from being unfocused to unstoppable, and specifically by applying the tactics, strategies, and learning from the results of persuasion and influence demonstrated at a high level. What that means for you is by applying the things we talk about in this podcast of sales skills or persuasion and influence, you can become the most persuasive, influential, and impactful version of yourself and better serve the people around you that you love and care about the most. I'm your host, Hayden Schaap. For the last 10 years, I've obsessively tried to learn, apply, and teach these skills of persuasion and influence at the highest level, and have seen incredible results in my own life and the people that we've worked with, and that's what we're talking about. Give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out on all of the audio platforms as well. Make sure you follow for more. If you get some value out of this, I'd really appreciate if you shared it with somebody else as well, because I think a lot of people could benefit. Enjoy the episode, guys.
Well, I was thinking of ways that I could start this, just to give context of who you are for those that don't know, or play on the fact that like people are watching this, and if they're in like the Mormon LDS community, they're like, I've seen this guy somewhere. It's like, oh, maybe 15 years ago in RM, or
yeah, I don't ever say. If somebody says they recognize me, I will never say, "Oh, is it from the?"
Is it?
Because I did that once. Somebody said, "Where have I seen you before? I know you. I know you. I know you," and you know. I would first say, oh, maybe, Comedysportz, maybe, the RM or St. Souls or something like that. And somebody said that and they got really excited and they said, where do I know you from? So I said all these like movies that I've been in. They're like, no. Oh, wait, do you live over by Will's Pit Stop? And I go, yeah. And they go, oh, okay.
You're
I
like,
see you
oh,
there.
sorry for being so pretentious.
Yeah, no. So I will never bring up anything I've done.
That's the best. They're like, I feel like I recognize you like a relative maybe or a long lost friend. And you're like, oh no, it's from Hollywood actually.
Yeah, no. Do you have a TV?
Yeah.
No,
I don't know who I am.
I'll never say that again. I'll just say Harmon's maybe. Do you shop at Harmon's? That's it.
That's funny. I like it.
I put my foot in my mouth once and that was enough.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, my guest today, you're actually the first for my personal podcast, like non-salesman guest.
Oh,
so
okay.
Congratulations, since this is such a big show. Speaking of being pretentious, just kidding. My guest today is Curt Doussett. I said that right?
Yes, there's a fire.
Doussett.
Yeah.
Got it. And Curt is, you've been an actor. You own Comedysportz, that I'm a big fan of and have been for a long time, even before I knew you were the owner.
Yep.
Many dates went on to Comedysportz.
Good. I hope that gave you something to.
None with my wife before we were married, but
really?
Yeah, I don't know what that says about anything there, but
maybe more about us than you.
Well, I was more focused on the hilarity of the comedy than my date, so I guess that's a good thing. But you've been in well-known TV shows of people that, if anyone is in kind of a niche community of, I guess, your LDS Mormon population, they'll know you from certain things, but your scope of work has gone so much further than that. And I'd love to hear more about that, but you've done work with Mel Gibson and other people, in a sense. Yeah.
You kind of hit a ceiling here in Utah. I started acting, Reader's Digest version, in 1990, if that doesn't date me, which it does exactly.
Dude, I was not even born in 1990. I don't know if you can believe that.
It doesn't matter. I was in college.
Okay.
And somebody said, hey, my sister owns a theater. There's a play coming up. And the lead character, it's a comedy play. The lead character is you. It's your whole personality. Would you be interested in doing a play? And I was like, no. And she says, you have to do it. And I said, okay, look, when the audition comes around, if you can find me, I'll go to it.
Okay.
School gets out. I'm living in an apartment somewhere in Provo. She finds me, drags me to the Hale Center Theater. I walk in. I first time I've ever been into a theater that I wasn't going to watch,
right.
Something. And some dude sat next to me and he goes, dude, I'm so nervous. What are you here for? And I said, I think I'm here for the role of Clive. And he goes, me too. So they call him down. He goes nuts, explodes all over the stage, yelling, screaming. He rips this piece of furniture off, and I go, I can't do that. So I run outside and I throw up and I go home. She calls me and says, where are you? And I said, I can't do it. I threw up, give my apologies to your sister and their planter, but I'm not an actor. I'm not going to do it. She forced me to come back. I finally come back in later that night. They let me read and practice for a long time. And then I go home and they call me and say, we want you to play the role. And I said, nope. And I hung up. They called back 3 days in a row and I just kept saying, I can't do it. I will throw up every night. I can't do it. That was in May of 1990. I ended up taking the role.
Okay.
And from there, they just asked me to do the next play and the next play and the next play. And I did every single play without taking a break for 7 years.
Wow.
Between the Orem and the Salt Lake Theater, back and forth. And it was just after probably 91 or 92, somebody said, you know what, you might be better on film than stage. And I said, why? And they said, well, stage is this big, giant, theatrical, flamboyant, over the top.
Yeah.
And that's not you. You're a little more subtle, kind of subdued. You'd be really good on film. So I called an agency out of the phone book and they said, have you done any film? And I said, no. They said, there's an audition this week. We'll send you to the audition. We'll just get some feedback on how you did during the audition. And if you did okay, if you didn't just totally blow it, then we'll think about signing you.
Okay.
So I go to the audition. I get a call the next day and she said, you booked the role. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
That's awesome. What is it? She said, well, it's 2 days. It's like $1,800 a day. And I was like, I'm an actor, man. I'll do this all day long. It was Dumb and Dumber, the movie Dumb and Dumber.
No.
So I
Let's
booked
go.
the first audition I ever went to. I booked. It was Dumb and Dumber, which sounded stupid. We thought it was going to be stupid. I was on set for 2 days watching Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. I'm the bellhop that brings them into the hotel after they find the money.
Dude, I did not know this. I mean, I should be so much better at research.
No.
This is awesome because the last couple of days I've been trying to go through like movies that are that I could react to as for my sales expertise background. Yeah. And Tommy Boy is the one that keeps coming up, right? And so then that's making me reminisce on like all my movies that I love that are like Tommy Boy, Dumb and Dumber being one of them. So I'm kind of in that mindset already. I'm like, this stuff is so funny. I miss it a lot.
It's fun. My line was cut, but I still made it in. I'm in like 4 or 5 seconds.
Cool.
Walk them in, and I didn't work again for like 6 months. I mean, I went to audition, and I was like, this is actually hard to work. But I kept doing plays. I kept doing theater.
Cool.
So that just kind of took off from there, and you end up doing your career grows here in Utah until you hit a ceiling. This is kind of a non-union state, so you can't go union here. Or if you do, then maybe 4 or 5 jobs come through a year for you. Wow. So if you're non-union, then you could do 100, but you're going to make
pennies, basically.
Yeah,
because the SAG rates are just so much better, right? It's
100%.
Like,
so eventually, I get to the point where I have to go SAG. I've done. I'm doing some union shows that are in from LA, Promised Land, Everwood, Touched by an Angel, and then you have to go.
You were in Promised Land?
Yeah.
Good night, dude. Probably 20 minutes ago, I wrote down Promised Land as a movie to react to. This is like crazy.
Yeah, I played cop number 1 and I played detective number 4. So a lot of big roles. At a certain point, I decide that I'm going to do this full time and I'm never going to play parts that just have a number next to them.
When was that shift? It was after just doing enough of them and also saying maybe like, how do I stack up against the guys that are in these bigger roles? Well, I think I could maybe do that, or what was that like?
It came because I did feel like I'm as good, if not better, than some of the guys that are being cast out of LA, but they would never cast those roles here locally because they just don't. They think, well, if you're good, then you're not here.
Yeah.
So I did hit a ceiling. I did as much as I could without going union, and then right when my first son was born, my wife and I both said, let's take that step. So I got a manager in LA.
Cool.
And he was born in March, and I moved to LA. I got an apartment down there in May of that year. So I probably had been acting maybe 10 years and doing everything I could here in Utah. I mean, everything. It would be a spokesperson, a local commercial, a training DVD for a software company, to a TV show. And I said, all right, I'm going to go down to LA and go for it. So I would leave. I got my agent and I would leave Sunday night. I would kiss my wife and my young son goodbye Sunday night. I'd drive down 9 hours to my apartment and I'd stay there until Thursday afternoon. If I didn't hear from my agent by Thursday afternoon, I'd drive back. And I did that for 5 years, every single week.
Every week?
For 5 years. I went through 3 cars, hit 1 deer, no accidents, had 2 more kids while I was doing that, and then started to book more of the stuff here in Utah that they would only book out of LA.
Interesting.
So I would go to LA, I'd book a TV show. I did a couple, I'll make this story brief. I did a couple Disney movies, and I did, because all these Disney movies that you see on the Disney Channel were filmed out of Salt Lake.
Okay.
And I did this one called Go Figure, where I play this dad.
Shut up. Dude.
So I'm the dad and Go Figure.
Sarah and I, our guilty pleasure is old Disney Channel originals, like Motocrossed and Go Figure.
So
we literally will browse Disney Plus and be like,
sure?
what original are we?
Well, here's something that's going to hopefully make you as mad as it made my wife. I filmed Go Figure, had a great experience. The producer, Tom, I can't remember his last name. He calls me and he goes, Curt, we have another role we want you to play. It's a dad. We're going to send over the contract. It's just another, little Disney cutesy movie. So we get the contract. I'm looking at it. Then my agent in LA calls me and said, Curt, have you ever heard of a show called Dirty Jobs? And I was like, yeah. Well, they want to hire you for the spinoff called Dangerous Jobs. Mike Rowe does Dirty Jobs. Curt Doussett's going to do Dangerous Jobs. And you start in a week, you have to go to San Francisco and start filming. And I was like, how did I get this? And they said, they've been looking for a year, but they had your reel and they would just put in your reel at the end of every audition nationwide and said,
how does this compare?
How does this guy, Curt, is kind of what we're looking for. How did all the people that we auditioned stack up against Curt? Then finally, after a year, they said, why don't we just hire Curt? And I didn't know any of this was going on.
Really?
So I call my agent back and I say, I'm not going to do this little Disney movie. I'm out of it. So good luck with your stupid little basketball, singing, dancing, High School Musical show. No. Yeah, I turned it down.
You would have been the dad in High School Musical?
Yeah. Well, I was the dad for about 3 weeks. And then before filming, I backed out of it because I was like so stoked that I didn't have to be in this dumb singing, dancing, basketball, musical. I mean, I'd work for a month and you make like $3,000. But what I did do, I said, my friend Bart Johnson, great actor. He's like me, works out of LA from Heber. So he's here all the time.
Yeah.
You guys should call him. And they said, oh, well, you kind of put us in a tight spot. So we'll call Bart. Bart got it. He's the dad in High School Musical. He comes up tomorrow to film more of High School Musical, the musical. He's traveled the world.
Like right now, he's
still doing the dad. He's still the dad in all these High School Musical movies. He's been in all of them, and he has made millions and millions and millions of dollars of doing High School Musical. So,
interesting.
That is one.
He's the guy, huh?
That is one that got away. At the time, I thought I was dodging a bullet because I did. I mean,
never know though, right? Like,
there's no way to know.
Yeah.
So I did end up going and I did host Dangerous Jobs on Discovery Channel for 3 years, and that was great. And that spun off onto other things. But yeah, so that's kind of how the career happened.
That's awesome. I'm always fascinated by hyper successful people in their field and the beginning stages of that journey and how it's so similar for really everyone. I mean, like I'm listening. So in my mind right now, I can hear the voices of a lot of the sales reps that I coach and sales leaders specifically who don't want to make certain sacrifices early in their careers because of, I need to spend more time with my family or my wife or, whatever. But how in contrast to people who are really, really successful long-term is they are making those sacrifices and figuring out how to make it work. And that's what I hear in your story. It's like, it just rings so true to me. First off, when I first started at Moxie, I was just a lowly sales rep. We moved to Dallas. I got an offer to be a VP of sales and a partner in the company. Moved to Dallas, and we're like, well, I'm over the sales program, so I need to. A big part of that is the door-to-door program. And but I didn't want my wife to have to travel out every summer to a new market. So I figured, well, Sarah can live in Dallas and I'll just travel a week out of every month. Well, very quickly, a week turned into 3 weeks of every month. And Sarah was living in Dallas and I was basically living here. But had I not made those sacrifices for like 5 years straight, I'm talking like every month it was like that. No, and it was hard. But it made our marriage better, working and doing that well. And, you know, so many good things happened from that. But I just remember thinking to myself so many times, like, is this worth it? You know, did you ever ask yourself that on those 12-hour drives to LA?
Would, especially when we had like 2 kids and then 3 kids. I mean, I would get in my car Sunday night, 6 p.m., 2 kids clinging to my leg saying, Dad, don't go. And I know I've got 2 auditions and a class, like the Groundlings or Second City. I took a bunch of classes while I was down there. And I would get in my car and I would usually cry to either Cedar City or St. George. And then when I'd have to stop to go to the bathroom is when, you know, you get out. It hurts so bad. And, you know, my wife would be like, hey, we're all in this together, which I think is a High School Musical song. I'm sorry for bringing that up. But
it was more painful for you than it would be for me.
It did hurt to say just now. But she was like, I couldn't have done it without my wife. Yeah. She was the one saying, let's do this. Because we had another business, Comedysportz. Yeah. Which, I mean.
So you were doing that already?
Oh, yeah. My wife started Comedysportz in 98.
Cool. Okay.
Again, you weren't born. And or were you born? Were you born? Okay.
I was 6.
All right. So she started Comedysportz, and actually it's her company. She called up the Hale Center Theater and said, do you have any guys that are funny, but not like over the top, goofy funny? And they said, we have one guy. Curt Doussett. So I guess it's easier.
That's cool
to have me work for free as a husband than pay me.
There you go.
So we started Comedysportz, and that had kind of taken off and was providing a meager income at the time, which we thought was, you know, it's steady. The club is doing well, sold out shows. People are hiring us for a lot of corporate entertainment. And I started doing corporate trainings, some of the stuff that I've talked to you about. So that provided a little bit of, you know, a base for me to launch off of and go down. And I did work in acting, not huge successful things, but enough to make money and to keep it going.
Sure.
But yeah, the sacrifice to go down, it hurt. It killed me. I would often think, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know, acting, storytelling is what I love. I was working, I was making money. I was able to provide for my family. I was home every, you know, Thursday through Sunday. And then it was after 5 years is when I got the show on Discovery Channel. At that point I said, all right, I'm not going down every week. I'll go down now because we can afford now to fly once or twice a month rather than drive every week.
Yeah.
Got rid of the apartment and then I was busy working for the next few years. So I didn't have to, when you're working, they say work begets work, but when you're working, a lot of times people aren't seeing you and you get forgotten. And then when your show comes out on TV, then it's like, oh, everybody has to have you.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
when my show premiered, I got calls from all the big agencies saying, hey, if you're not happy with your agent, come with us. We can do better. And no,
is that kind of a weird, from your perspective as an actor, like the timeline of that? One of my buddies, it's my co-host of the podcast that we do, Anti-Fragile. He's a stunt coordinator, and he's SAG and has done a ton of stuff in Hollywood and even some like Marvel movies recently and stuff. But he always says that like it's weird to see when your shows come out because you're seeing like the recap of your life from like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Basically. So, but then that's where all of your new leads come from of like the new stuff. But it's like you already did that work kind of like a long time ago. So it's very much a lagging result of the good work that you did a while ago.
100%. I often don't watch anything I've done.
He's the same way, which is awesome. Yeah. It's cool.
I was there. So I mean, you go to some premieres, you go to like the grand opening of this show and you got to make an appearance and there's like a Q&A. So you have to watch some things.
Sure.
But I don't really care about that. I don't want to know. I hope people like it.
Yeah.
And I hope I get to keep working. But watching something I did is, it's like watching a movie you thought was okay over and over again. It's like, I've seen it.
Do you ever watch to critique yourself, like for the improvement aspect, or would you early on in your career?
Early on, oh yeah, I would. You know how some people will sit there and go, "Oh my gosh, do I really sound like that?"
Yeah,
that happens to everybody for the first year or two,
Huh.
and then after that, then it's like, well, yeah, that's what I sound like.
Yeah.
So now when I hear myself on TV, like I went to the gym last week and I'm on a treadmill walking, and one of the shows I did for BYU TV came on, and I was watching it going, oh my, I am so bad at acting. Why did they hire me? There's a thing I've actually asked the LDS church to take down because I'm so embarrassed of it. It's
really.
Whoa.
You could tell me off camera what it was.
It's at every. I'll just tell you that it's at every visitor center near every LDS temple around the world.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was deathly ill when I filmed it, and when I watch it now, because my kids, when we go up to see the lights every Christmas or whatever, the kids will make a beeline for it and watch it and go, you suck. It's so bad.
They roast you.
I know.
They don't actually do that, do they?
No, of course I do. I've got a video of me on the premiere of the second season of my Dangerous Job show.
Yeah.
I'm at home by myself, or not by myself. I have my kids, and I put it on TV, and I'm filming myself going, hey, I'm here watching my show, and I turn it, and I put it back on my show. My kids go, no, SpongeBob. So I put it back on SpongeBob. And so I would go, okay, let's see if this works. So I put it back on my show. They'd all yell and scream, and I put it back on SpongeBob. And yeah, they don't care at all.
I actually love that. That's cool.
No.
Yeah.
If they see something, they'll just not really talk about it. Yeah, they don't care. Something will come on TV and they'll just change it, which is all. That's great.
At the end of the day, it's like being a good dad too. Probably has, well, obviously there's same principles that apply to a successful career as being a good father, but who you are to them and what you mean to them probably is it's not very correlated to who you are on TV and the stuff that you do outside of your time with them.
That's my job. And none of my kids have any interest in following in my footsteps, whether it's doing comedy, entertaining, getting up in front of people, speaking, in front of TV, theater, the camera, nothing. None of it interests them at all. So, and that's
interesting.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
So I have a question for you with, because you and I have talked about like training principles, corporate trainings, what you've done in that realm.
Yeah.
And I feel like the bridge from your acting career to enabling others with the principles of success that you've learned, there's this gap here that we haven't talked about, which is improv and comedy. The first comedy sport. So knowing now that you don't ever do comedy sports like reffing anymore, the shows.
I did last week.
You did? Dang it.
I did. I did ref every show for the first 14 years. I emceed every single show. And then you just get more people that want to do it. And my life gets busier with kids and stuff. So I slowly phased out to where it's like, oh, I don't have to go down anymore.
Right.
So,
and by the time that I had gone to Comedysportz the first time, you were already out of that phase of doing it every week. But you were the first ref that I ever saw, actually. So it was just like a random time, I guess, that you did it.
It must have been, yeah.
Come to find out, anyway, so I was like, Curt is hilarious. And I recognized you from other stuff that I'd seen too. And then we met at the gym because I'd almost see you every day at the gym when I was like going to college here. This was like probably 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
8 years ago. Yeah. And I would see you and Chris working out. And so we kind of connected there, and that's how we reconnected through that. But what I'm getting at is you were just hilarious. And that's something that I always loved paying attention to whenever I would see anything from you, is like your subtle wit and the comedy aspect of things, not just the acting. So where did that fit into your career? And then we can from there jump into some of the success principles.
Well, I guess I'll go back to where I think it started. I was really, really short growing up.
Okay.
I was 5'3" when I graduated from high school.
5'3"
or 5'4". I was 5'4" when I graduated from high school.
Some late growth spurts then, huh? Jeez.
I was in the marching band. I played every brass and woodwind instrument. So I was like really, really not what I wanted to be. I wanted to be some, 6 foot something athlete, but I wasn't. I was 5'4", I played the clarinette, had braces all 4 years of high school.
Awesome, dude.
Just
looking at you just never guess that.
Well, see, the thing is, that's just who I am. That's who I am.
Because you're like the OG, like always cast as the Nazi in the bad guy. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at me, you go,
I don't know if that's offensive. I'm facetious
Of
mostly.
course, I know the box I fit in as far as TV and stuff like that. You have to look at somebody on TV and know within 2 seconds of who and what they are.
Yeah.
So you look at me and you go, a-hole. And that's okay, because I made a career out of that. But
yeah, I'm not thinking clarinet.
So growing up like that, what I felt I had to offer people as far as friendship and all that was to be funny. So I would try and be, the one that would say something that would make everyone laugh or take notice of me. Because I was definitely not the good looking guy. I wasn't the athlete. I wasn't the scholastic stud or anything. I had to be the guy that made people laugh. So that just kind of started, probably grade school, trying to be funny, trying to get out of getting beat up by Steve Greswitt on the way home from school was by making him laugh and then making the other people watching him about to beat me up laugh. So people would go, don't, dude, and it actually worked in junior high. I got cornered by a small gang member, and some dude from my math class went, you guys don't, man. Curt is funny. So they
saved you from some beatings, huh?
Yeah. So
there you go.
I kind of just got into being not overly in your face funny, because I don't like that. If somebody tells me they're funny, or they want to tell me a joke, or like, dude, I'm the one that cracks everyone up in my group, I'm the wacky one, then you're not.
Yeah, if you have to say it, it's like,
yeah. So when I got into theater, but just my natural sense of humor at that point really played well into live, theater. And then when my wife started Comedysportz, she wanted somebody who could be up in front of people in charge, kind of make sure the whole show runs smoothly, the trains go in and out of the station on time, but could be witty while moving things forward.
Right.
And so my the sense of humor that you've already developed gets fine-tuned and honed, and then you start these patterns of thinking of ways to find what is humorous or what connects something from what you're doing to the audience, which they find funny, because we only laugh at what we are familiar with.
Right.
We don't laugh at these crazy, wacky things that are just so out there that we have no basis for reference for them.
Right.
We laugh at what's familiar. And why do we do that? No one knows. No one knows. But if you said, Curt, say something funny, I would probably only get a reaction from you if I said something that you were really familiar with.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the comedy started, because I've never felt as if I'm a comedian at all. I'm just a guy who, like, I'm really punctual, and you can probably afford me. So that's why I get hired half the time.
You're very humble as well.
Well, if you want, one of my really good friends, he's an actor. He was in the movie Singles Ward. Will Swenson. He's in New York, married, doing Broadway, successful. He and I did a ton of theater together. We would always get cast opposite each other. He'd be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Oh yeah, this dark haired dude.
Yeah, super good looking. So I was the poor man's Will Swenson. If you couldn't afford Will, you would get me, and then I'd be the the really funny one. He'd be the really good looking one. So when we would do these plays, I'd come up with all these little bits that we'd do. He'd steal them, and we were a really good team, And of course, they'd announce me as in the cast tonight, and then you'd have people go, oh, okay.
And meanwhile, you were funding Will's acting career with all your one-liners.
Well, yeah, he owes me everything. No, he and I have very, very similar, almost identical, sense of humor. So
that's cool.
It just kind of took off with the Comedysportz, and then because I was up in front of crowds hosting, that's how kind of my hosting career kind of took off, and then that translated into the corporate training, taking everything that we use in comedy and translating that into the corporate setting.
Yeah.
Because Nothing I do or I teach has anything to do with how funny you are. Do you know what I mean?
So when I was 21 years old, I had big dreams of a few things. Becoming a millionaire by the time I was 30, that was a big goal of mine. I wanted to own my own business, and I wanted to create financial freedom through investing in real estate, startups, any other type of vehicle that would give me passive income so that I could really provide for my family and my parents in a significant way because of how much they sacrificed for me growing up. I didn't grow up in the most well-off household, and so I really wanted to create a life for my family that they could be comfortable. I'm a grandchild of immigrants, and I had a lot of people in my life that came before me that have sacrificed a ton to create the good things that I have. I wanted to create financial freedom so that I could give back and serve significantly. I thought I was going to do that by, first off, playing football in the NFL. I obsessed over football growing up, but then I quickly got cut from my college team upon arriving, basically. So then I thought I was going to do that by getting into a prominent business school and excelling there, and then, getting a high-paying job out of college. And I didn't get into any of the business schools that I applied for, and there were more than one. So I had some, learning disabilities and a couple other things that felt like held me back in that way. Bottom line, it just didn't work. So after all the failed attempts to make money and try to achieve my dreams early, I was basically desperate and just really didn't think that it would all work out. I was doing a bunch of these hourly jobs and barely making ends meet and donating plasma, all the things you do when you're a poor college kid. I had a friend approach me and say that he had made $50,000 doing a sales job during the summer in between semesters. And he was a really well-known and highly prominent athlete. I had grown up hearing about how good he was at football. And so we became friends after I got home from a mission for my church. I just trusted him. So I looked into it. I ended up doing this sales job thinking that it would just be a better way to hold me over while I really figured out how I was going to provide financially for my family and really make a big dent in my dreams. Fast forward a few years later, I was with the same company doing that job over and over again while I was going to school, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now coaching and teaching other people how to do the same thing. It completely changed my life in a way that I did not expect, learning how to persuade and influence people at a high level because you practice that day in and day out. That translated over into every other relationship and aspect of my life that I care more about than just sales. And then obviously financially being able to get well ahead of all of my peers and the other people who were not willing to make those sacrifices of doing that sales job during the summer in the off months of school. And then fast forward even more ahead, I was able to become a millionaire by 26 and have a multiple $1,000,000 net worth by the time I was 30, upwards of $10 million plus, and invest in real estate early on in my 20s, be able to give back and help pay for mission trips and do service opportunities that I just otherwise wouldn't have had. But what I'm most proud of is being able to give my family, my parents, my wife, my immediate family the life that they just really never had growing up. Because I think deep down we all want to be the type of people that when all is said and done, we actually have made a difference in other people's lives. And I feel like that's actually really the deep result of what this job ended up doing for me in a way that I just did not expect. Long story short, I'm obsessed with teaching the same things to other people. And since I have gotten to management and now I'm a partner in our company, I've been able to work with upwards of over 1,000 sales reps who are young, ambitious, college-age kids mostly, who start doing this job just to pay for school, but end up finding out that it's highly impactful for every other aspect of their life. So right now we are hiring and we have limited spots available to take on of people. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description of this video or in my bio. You can check that out, apply and see if you're a good fit or a candidate for this job. We have personality profiles that can match you with income and earning potential that is very much historically accurate of people that have gone in our program before. And if you take the leap of faith and at least learn about whether this could be a good fit for you, I think you're going to be not only really impressed, but if your results are even half as good as what everyone else has gone through this program has experienced, the only problem that you'll have is that one, you didn't know about this sooner, and two, that you didn't sign up and try to do it yesterday. All right, so give it a shot. Check out the link in my bio, and I'll see you guys in the rest of the episode.
I've been teaching improv and comedy for 24 years now. I've never once taught anybody how to be funny.
Yeah, interesting.
I can't, it's impossible. You have a sense of humor and you can hone it if you follow these principles. Same thing with, business.
Yeah.
These principles that we teach in Comedysportz to have people do, get up and entertain people. It's the exact same principles that we use, in the corporate setting.
Yeah.
That people use, like you and I. Hey, do you think you could do improv in front of people and be successful at it? Like right now, Hayden, do you think you could get up in front of people and do it?
I mean, I'd like to think that I'd have a decent shot at it, mostly because in my friend group, I'm the one that's known for being able to say things that are unexpectedly witty that make people laugh on the spot. But like in terms of process of knowing what that would go into that, I don't think that I'd be able to be very good at it.
Well, let me tell you something.
Right away.
You and I have improvised this entire conversation so far, and you've done great. You haven't failed once. And that's what we teach, in a corporate setting. Have you been once afraid of failing in this conversation?
No. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons why I really love hosting podcasts, is because I actually like the fact that it has failure baked into it the whole time. It's like it's not scripted. I mean, coming into this, that's why I was texting you. Like, I really like doing these unscripted because they just are better. People love them.
That's all my entire career has been.
That's awesome.
That's learning how to not be afraid of failing. And that's all I've ever taught people down at Comedysportz how to do. And that's fail quick.
Yeah.
And learn how to be a successful failure. That's what I teach in the corporate setting. Yeah. You need to learn how to fail quickly. And because what we do is our minds relax once we know we're going to fail, but we're going to be okay. A preface to that, somebody asked me a long time ago, what makes you think you're so funny, Curt? And one, I was like, I don't know. In fact, I can play the clarinet. I can play Flight of the Bumblebee on the tuba, and not many people can.
That's impressive, though.
That's my
Flight of the Bumblebee on the tuba.
I did that in college, yeah.
There you go.
But I said, let me get back to you. And about a week later, I said, I've got the least sexy answer for you about why I think I'm funny. And that is, I've failed so much that I make connections. My mind I have failed in front of every single audience I've gotten up in front of. I've failed at something. I will mess up the pre-show speech. I'll mess up calling something, but I've done it so much, but I've survived it every time that my mind now relaxes. And when we're relaxed, we can make the connections to the things that are familiar and to the things that are probably like higher level comedy things that people can resonate with. If I were to say, Hayden, tell me a joke right now, your suggestion is going to be produce. And go right now, say something funny. Just go.
Produce.
Okay. A lot of people will sit there and go, I don't. They just put this pressure on themselves, and a lot of times they'll say something inappropriate because that'll get a reaction, even though it's not the reaction we want when we're trying to entertain people.
Sure.
So what I do is I just teach people how to fail. That's
Interesting.
all I've ever done. Their sense of humor will come out. It'll get refined. It'll get honed over time. And the same thing, like I said, in the corporate setting. I just did one recently where I had to teach all these managers. We were up at a retreat up in Daniel Summit, I think.
Where's that?
A big lawn. It's like you go up to Heber, but instead of turning left to Park City, you go right.
Right. Yeah, it's like on that weird split three-way.
I just had to get people to get up in front of each other and bomb. And that was my whole goal. And afterwards, they started just doing brilliant stuff. They were able to like interact and lead and ask other people
awesome.
to do stuff. So a lot of what I've done is just tried to become as successful a failure as possible. So
that's awesome.
That's where I'm at.
Which is, that makes so much sense how that universally applies to business, let's say, but really creating like manufacturing success in any endeavor. That's a universal principle. You're using improv and comedy to demonstrate it. So you're using your expertise to then teach it and demonstrate it, but it can so easily apply to everything.
Well, people improv all day, every day.
Yeah.
Now, whether they have to get up in front of an audience and do it right in front of them, in the spur of the moment, that's a whole different way of doing it. But every conversation we've had today, that you've had with other people, that I've had with people, have been completely improvised, and they've gone well because we were relaxed. We weren't afraid of, we weren't afraid of bombing.
Yeah, trying to be perfect.
So I'm doing a show tonight, and I'm going to be in front of a couple thousand people with 6 other comedians. 2 of them are terrified, and I just have to say, you guys, we're gonna get stupid all over us. Just splash around in it.
Stupid all over us. I love it.
And if I can accept my failure, and if you can actually see me accept the fact that I'm bombing, or I say something like I just totally mess up, but if you're the audience and I just go, well, that was dumb, I apologize. The audience is gonna kind of be on your side at that point. They don't like, audiences don't like ego when it comes to, you know, comedy. What's the favorite thing people like to watch at the end of movies when they show during the credits?
It's a blooper reels.
The bloopers.
You see the real people. What's that? What they're
just honest.
Authenticity.
Yeah, and that's what people.
That's the word I was going to say is honest.
Everyone will, you know, they can connect with somebody that screws up.
Yeah,
because we love it when we see somebody else do it, and that's what you know. The shows that, like the one I'm going to do tonight, is just going to be us for an hour and a half, screwing up every other minute.
Is it an improv show?
Yeah, it's a Comedysportz show.
Really?
It's at the Sierra. We do them like once or twice a year at the Sierra. We're going to be up on stage. They sell tickets, but we also have shows going on at the club tonight too. So
cool. That's awesome. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm hearing these like common threads of everything that I've found most successful when I teach it to our sales reps and managers. So let me give you an example. When I'm training someone, because my specialty is door-to-door sales, so I'm teaching people how to gain someone's trust in the harshest of sales environments, right? And there aren't just tips and tricks that work for me that I'm teaching them. It's like I've tried to boil these down to universal principles. Like, why would someone buy from anyone if they don't know them? Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing that we start off with rookie sales reps is achieving honesty in the way you communicate with someone. So like, for example, if my normal register of voice is here, but when I'm talking to you, I actually talk like this, even if I'm using the same inflections, you know, I'm lying to you with my voice because there's something that is not right. I don't normally speak that way. And so the customer will be like ferocious, like vile to that person compared to if I just knock your door and I'm like, hey, can you give me a glass of water? I'm really hungry. I'm really, you know, mess up right there.
You're doing great.
Give me a glass of water. I'm really thirsty. No, seriously, like right now. But if I'm speaking my normal register of voice and I'm confident, they're way less likely to actually respond negatively to that than they are if you're lying to them with the way you communicate, i.e. out of your register of voice, trying to be too perfect in the way that you're talking. So it's all about achieving like honesty at every level with your body language, with your vocal tonalities, and with the words that you're saying. And when you can harmonize those together, obviously there's thousands of tactics to do that, but that's what gains people's trust, is that level of honesty. And that's what I hear you kind of talking about in that way. It's like the comedian who's like kind of self-deprecating as he's improving, that I love that guy versus the one who is pretending to be perfect. Right. Yeah.
I can't relate to somebody who's, you know, perfect. I truly, you give me somebody that, kind of knows that, they're doing their best, and I'm going to put myself on the line right now. So please bear with me as I try and, you know, get this out. I don't know if you've noticed, but I stutter real bad, and I have my entire life. It used to be so bad I couldn't even have a conversation with people, like in grade school.
Interesting.
So now when I get up in front of, you know, whether it's 100 people or 10,000, I still have that complete insecurity. Now, when people look at me, they don't go, "Oh, that poor guy." So I have to kind of do a little bit of, you know, self-deprecation, just a little bit, to let people know, like, I'm not, whatever you think I am, I'm not. Seriously, somebody hand me a tuba and I will prove to you that I am not who you think I am. Or have the girl I liked in, you know, 6th grade walk in through the back door and watch me throw up. That's who I still am. And I still am super self-conscious, you know, about my stutter, my huge nose, whatever it is, you know. I'm just like, that's who I am. And the quicker you see me, the more comfortable I am, you know, with going forward in, you know, any kind of interaction. So the honesty, I guess the two things I teach when I go into, you know, any kind of corporate setting is how to fail quick and how to be honest. If you're honest, even if you're talking to somebody about something that they don't want to talk about, they're going to kind of endear themselves to you if they feel you're being completely honest with them, you know?
Yeah.
And that, I think, comes when they see you not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Because if I fail in front of you, but I'm still trying, and you kind of see past the sheen of what everyone else thinks they see, then the real dialogue, real communication happens.
Yeah.
Whether it's in sales, whether it's in, you know, leading or managing a team, getting your team to go out there and do what you want them to do. They're going to follow somebody that they feel is like honest and real and vulnerable, but has some leadership qualities and can structure that.
Yeah.
What I love, like with Comedysportz shows,
Yeah.
it's chaos in there, but it's within a structure, and there are a ton of rules with improv, just like there are, like, you know, society rules out in society.
Yeah.
As long as we follow all those rules, we can kind of do whatever we want.
Right.
Same with improv, same with leading a team, same with sales. If you follow these rules and this structure, you can do anything you want in there. You watch a Comedysportz show and you go, holy scriptures, that was all over the place. But it ended and it started and was run very, very tightly. And that's one of the things I think is really good about how this applies to the whole, corporate world. So
Right. Business, life, everything. It's like,
yeah.
Well, and so you had mentioned to me, to your point about like your stutter, you mentioned to me when we went to the gym the other day, and I never would have guessed, frankly. But since we've been talking, so not in a way to make you self-conscious, but I've been trying to pay attention to it mostly because like I'm fascinated about how people overcome their obstacles in life. Like it's one of the, as someone who's had so many of them, we all do, right? Like it just is such an interesting topic to me. And the point that I'm going to make here is like, I think really it just hit home as I was thinking about this when you were talking. When I can be informed of your insecurities as someone trying to entertain me, for example, or teach me if you're teaching in a corporate setting, I might not have a stutter, but I'm thinking about the thing that's my thing, my stutter. And then I'm in awe about how you've overcome your thing, right? So like I'm seeing myself in you, and I think that that's probably the mechanism by which we connect with each other. When you're honest about your thing, I might not have the same thing, but I'm just thinking about my own now.
And you got to be honest with yourself about yours.
Yeah,
one of the things
that's the real truth too, right? It's like
100%. The thing that with an improv show, all we're doing is holding a mirror up to the audience. What they
so cool.
see on stage is themselves.
That is
because
so cool.
What we take are their suggestions. We reenact, you know, like I'll say, Hayden, what did you eat today for lunch? What'd you have today for lunch?
I haven't eaten anything today.
Very good. So you're fasting as well. All right. So we'll do an improv about not eating because we're so busy being attractive that what we're doing is we're showing you.
And that's hilarious because it's like the perception of people fasting is because they want to be more attractive. And I'm thinking to myself like, oh, well, I guess I want to be fasting a little bit. You know?
It won't hurt.
And then you're roasting that situation, and then the audience is laughing, but in a way where they don't have to feel pressure that they're being called out for stuff, but they are the whole time because it's them.
We're maybe the improvisers aren't going to do a scene about, you know, trying to be attractive because you're going to have some big,
as an
giant
example,
heavyset guy be you up there, and you know at that point his shirt's coming off. But what we do is we ask that we can reflect you guys.
Yeah.
Can we show you tonight?
Yeah.
That's why for me, I love improv. I love teaching improv in the corporate setting because it's so dispensable.
Yeah.
Meaning that when you come to an improv show, if I'm coming in to teach a corporate workshop on team building or trust or communication, whatever, it's so dispensable, meaning it will never be repeated. And that moment is gone and it was just for you.
Yeah.
When you come to a Comedysportz show,
that's so cool.
I'm trying to teach communication, that will never be repeated because I will never have you, and I'll never have you, and I'll never have you in that same exact situation ever again. what we do and what we create, if we're honest, is just fleeting. It'll be gone. And
but those are the best, right?
100%,
those are the best moments.
That's when I feel, the most alive, when I do something on stage and it's just for that one particular audience or that group of people, that one person who's there, for their birthday. You can't repeat that. You can't go home and go, oh my gosh, it was the best show I've ever seen. This one guy, he had scoopy hands. You had to be there. But you talk to the person who the scene was about, they'll never forget it for the rest of their lives, because it's just this honest, real moment that is so fleeting and so real.
So good
that we completely
and
open up to it.
To your point about how this universally applies, it's like, isn't that why we love moments in any relationship in general? In this case, it's like your relationship with the audience, for example, or your relationship with the person on the other side of the camera. Yeah. But like, that's the same principle that applies to why we cherish moments in any relationship. It's the things that you just can't manufacture again, that a lot of work goes into in understanding, like, what are the rules to live by here? Mm-hmm. And I'm trying my best, and there's some honesty when I fail, and now I'm really connecting. And then those moments where both parties are doing that. Yeah. That's like where the crossover of that beauty, I think, is in everything.
It's a real dance that's beautiful to be a part of,
Yeah, I don't know if you listen to much of Jordan Peterson's stuff or whatever, but like, he talks about this idea a lot, right? That like true expertise and like a really high level of performance in any endeavor happens on the brink of chaos and order, where someone is operating within boundaries that they've just slaved away to get good at, but they're pushing beyond them in order to achieve something that they might very well fail at. Yeah. And those are the things that we're actually in awe of.
That's exactly how I would kind of encompass everything I do for a living now, is within that, structure, doing whatever I want within that structure. Once if you follow the rules, you can do anything. Yeah. It's kind of like, we say with like sin. Once you break the commandments, you're bound to the consequences. Sure. You're trapped to
any choice, good or bad.
But if you don't sin, then you're free to do whatever you want. Yep. And there's like a hard, fast, structure. Yeah. To having that. And that's exactly what I think, with the comedy, with the corporate training. A lot of these guys that I just did this corporate workshop with, they have a sales team. I had about 30 of them up at Daniel's Summit, and I was teaching them how to communicate and lead better. And we had one guy that just was like, I want to be your example. Anytime you need somebody, I want to do it so everyone can see how it's supposed to be done. And I was like,
it was like kind of an egotistical, prideful.
Yeah. And so about halfway through, I had to say, how many of you feel like John is somebody you would follow into battle? And some people, they just kind of, I know.
Crickets.
But it's this, he was trying to create so much order within order. We had a gal, though, who was one of the secretaries, who was putting herself out for the very first time. She was doing everything that we were doing. What I do with workshops is everything we do in improv applies to entertaining people up on stage, but it also applies to everything you do in your life, in every aspect of it. And I just process how it applies outside of this. And this little girl, probably 25-year-old, really shy redhead, she really put herself out there, and she failed, and she got emotional because she was embarrassed, but she did it anyway. Everybody raised their hand when I said who would follow her into battle, and they were all like 100%. Wow. We want reluctant leaders, and they're reluctant because they have insecurities, because they're honest. George Washington, he didn't want to be president, but we insisted, and we had to have him. We had to have him over and over again. Other presidents recently, maybe we don't follow so much because they want it so bad. There's a lot to be said about being honest within that structure, and that's the person I want to follow. Whether it's a leader like yourself, whether it's
that's huge, and that's like the reason why it's such a poignant leadership principle. And we can kind of maybe finish on this topic because I think this is really good, but also like I know that a lot of, if not all of my sales guys are going to listen to this, and that's why we're going to do the this type of leadership training. So kind of like keep prepping them for that would be really interesting. Remember we were talking the other day about someone that you love and that I have now gotten to know a bit and care about a lot, and how in the hero's journey, there's always the refusal of the call when someone is called upon to do something great, right? They're the reluctant person. They don't want to do it. Yeah. And we had talked about this person. I was like, well, the good news is if they were refusing the call, then like you're following in line with the hero's journey. So here we go. Like these are the people who have the best potential to make the most impact in life. The guy that wants to be the example is like usually probably the one who's most dishonest with himself at the beginning, at least.
You can see that. You can see if somebody's honest with themselves, because if they're not going to be honest with me, or they're going to get only what they want from me.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's that whole thing is like people aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to what they need from you. And those kinds of leaders are not the kind that really have a great impact on us.
Yeah, 100%. So, maybe we could do this again and talk more about these principles and stuff. But what I'm taking away from this is it's just this fascinating idea of like improv comedy. So much of it seems chaotic, like made up on the spot, determining what you're going to say in the moment, but yet you're operating within a set of boundaries and a framework. And that idea of like, how do you create a framework that allows people to operate by principles without boxing them into say this, say that, a very specific regimen. So you're dictating the principles, the structure, rather than the content that's happening within that structure.
The content will come out, and if we stay true to the structure and they're honest, the content's going to be the best stuff you've ever heard in your life.
Totally. And that itself, would you say that's actually what makes it so applicable to other things like business, like family, like all this other stuff?
100%. If what I use, as what I try and teach people in comedy is what or how you live every single day throughout the day, whether you know it or not. And what I'm doing is I'm just putting these little, rules in when we work with, like leadership, for them to do anything they want, within there. And it applies to every single aspect of your life, my life, every single person's life. I just happen to kind of bumper ball it in, over to comedy. Yeah. But that's what I'm, trying to do. But it applies to everything. And we teach improv down at Comedysportz. Yeah. I think everybody should come down and take a class. And believe me, it's not a source of revenue for us. It's $90 for like 6 weeks. Yeah. It pays for the lights. But it teaches. I mean, we get housewives, school teachers, business people, public speakers. We get people who own businesses, people who live in their mother's basement. They all come and they just learn how to be more bold out in life, how to communicate better, how to feel more confident doing anything, in their life. Chris came and took a workshop.
Did he?
Yeah.
And gigantic Chris Ruckert. Zeus Life was what most people would know him as.
Yeah, Zeus. He came down and he got on stage and watch him sing.
This guy is ginormous. He is like a mammoth of a human.
Yeah. No, he aptly named himself Zeus.
The best looking mammoth of a human that I've ever seen, probably. He's an attractive guy. He's huge, though. Yeah, and it was fun to work out with him for like 5 years because he was gym famous, hugely. And then we would go out, and then I would be Northeast Orem famous, with like little church movies I've done. But it was fun. But everything he did, he was terrified. You wouldn't look at him and go, "You have any insecurities." But to get him to sing a Broadway show tune in a Shakespearean scene was like the most terrifying thing he'd ever done in his life. And then when he was done, he was like, he goes, "I can do anything now." Dude.
And
that makes me not want to do that because of my own insecurities, which makes me want to do it because I have to type of thing,
We say, if there's something that you're afraid at, run at it screaming and terrify it. And then if you can do something you're afraid of, and most people are afraid of, public speaking. Then I'm going to poke that, I'm going to get you to do that. And it's not that I know everybody's insecurities. We just do a lot of stuff that most people just don't do.
Right.
So, and same with like, you know, in the corporate setting, we're going to do a lot of stuff that most of like the managers and salespeople are not comfortable doing.
Right.
But we're going to apply that to what they do in the real world.
Oh, dude,
And then
this would be so
they're not
good
afraid of anything.
I'm thinking of so many of my managers, some directors of sales that I'm working with right now, and even some my team leaders and, you know, individual reps, where like they could benefit so much from doing something that gets them out of their perfectionist like mindset, because there's a lot of them are so concerned about, you know, guys that are hyper successful, they typically have like these underlying insecurities that make them want to be perceived as successful as well. And a lot of the drivers are underlying that, you know? And so therefore they sometimes have a tougher time being honest with themselves. And something like this, oh man, it'd be so good. But as I'm connecting the dots of like who I think this would be good for, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of just looking in the mirror actually, because it would really be good for me.
You know what? Everybody would surprise you in some way. You would have some people go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you were that creative, or I had no idea that you could be, you know, a completely different character, or you can talk about, I mean, like one of the things that we do is I'll say, okay, Hayden, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to talk about medieval makeup. Go. And you've got one of the exercises, I'm just going to give you, you know, whatever, but you have to talk to me as if you're the expert.
That's so cool.
You cannot stop
Rings
talking.
a bell from Comedysportz.
Yeah, you can't stop talking. You can't ask me how much more time you have left. I want you to come up to the front of the stage. I want you to look people in the eye. I don't want you to move your head when you're talking. That creates a higher status when we're doing it. I mean, all these little tiny things that we do, everyone will surprise you. And some of the best moments ever are when people surprise themselves and you see them have these moments, you know, where they break through. So it's awesome. I love it. Love it.
Well, I mean, I think we should just end on that. Frankly, that was awesome. Curt, thanks. I feel privileged to be your friend, to know you, and I feel privileged to be working with your son, and hopefully I can be some value to your family through that in a way.
You definitely have been so far already. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope you got, you know, at least 5 or 6 minutes out of this. And please don't make it just be the part that I can play the clarinet and the tuba. Yeah, I've done some other stuff.
If you're okay with it, we put together some like reels from this, and then what we like to, if anybody's a guest, we like to like have them see them first, so they can be like, okay, don't send that or do send that.
Couldn't care less.
Okay, cool.
Couldn't care less.
Either way, we'll run it by you. Just
I've done enough bad stuff out there that you could probably rent on Netflix. That would be much worse than anything you're going to put out there. So,
well, thanks, Curt. Looking for. Hopefully, we can do this again, but definitely we're going to do some training.
Yeah, whenever.
Okay, thanks, man.
Yeah, you got it.
Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy.